here, Mary Lou Pauly with another episode of Uniquely Issaquah. Today, my guest is Danny Bohm, the co-owner of Formula Brewing. Hi, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
I'm really excited to have you. I don't know if you know, but I'm Canadian, and beer is like on the natural food essential list up in my country. It's been really fun to see Formula Brewing get set up here in Issaquah. Can you introduce yourself and share the story behind Formula Brewing?
Yeah, you bet. Thank you. So Danny Bohm, 10, 12, I'm losing count already, Issaquah resident, 20 plus or so in Washington State. Came here from a tech acquisition. I was at a little tech startup that Microsoft acquired, brought me to the state, and I'm like, I'm never leaving. Southern California was where I came from before, and this just blows it away. And being here in Issaquah for a while, I'm like, there's an experience I think is missing. And it was not just another brewery, because as you've probably noticed, breweries are hyper-local. Pretty much every major, most even medium to minor cities have their own brewery. And Issaquah had that kind of a gap. I remember Rogue was here, the Issaquah Ale House, was it?
Yeah.
But that was a Oregon-based business, and they really didn't brew here much, and it presented more like a restaurant. So I'm like, nah, that's not feeling like what I'm seeing in Seattle and Georgetown and Ballard and Fremont. And so that was it, is how do I stitch together, not just having a brewery here, but building an experience set around that that's just unique and wants to draw the East Siders out. When it's rainy and cold, they still got to come out.
Brewery. I love
so that was kind of the thing. It just felt like an experience gap more than anything.
Oh, that's awesome. What sets you apart from other breweries in the area?
What makes Formula different? I would say it's the kind of three key things. One, it's the brewery, yes, and it's Issaquah's kind of only like legitimate manufacturing facility right now. Two, the tap room. So some breweries are production only, or just kind of behind the curtains.
Yes.
You're not allowed in. Absolutely, you're allowed in. And then three, it's the beer garden. So that's kind of where the name came from. It's the brewery plus the tap room plus the beer garden. And I think those things are the essential components to make it a unique, formula for the people here in Issaquah, or its visitors and passersby.
Yeah, that beer garden is fantastic. Walk us a little bit through your brewing process, and how do you end up experimenting with new recipes?
Yes. Step one, throw a lot of money at a very, very good system. It's, again, stuff that the casual visitor wouldn't notice, but for the brewers, we've got a good setup. Two, go all in on the ingredients. And so we try to source as much locally, but there's some things to be true to style. It's coming from Germany, as an example, or Czech Republic or others. And then there's also some innovative stuff. You want to be a cool kid on the block. Now you're hauling stuff in hops, for example, from New Zealand. So, and that right here on the table is our just poured and tapped today is a New Zealand IPA.
Oh, how fun.
And so that's one part of it. The next part of it is dedication to the entire process itself. Our head brewer, Jesse Brown, is just absolutely masterful at it all. It starts with cleaning, obsession with cleaning. Your beer will not taste great if there's even a trace of the last beer still anywhere in that facility. So you got to really, really be adamant about cleaning. And then the ingredients I just rattled off will shine. A next big thing is our cellar. Again, we don't distribute or sell or package anywhere else except those four walls. And yet we have this giant cellar. There's a lot of stainless steel there. Time. The beer is ready when it says it's ready. And you just got to wait sometimes for the things to settle out. And if you are rushed to get the next one out the door because I have to package, I have to get in kegs, or we're out of this, then you're going to cut corners and people will ultimately tell. And so we've overbuilt in terms of capacity, so we can always have that space. And then we package it in kegs and we put it just a few feet away in a big cooler where it stays nice and cold and safe and secure in terms of prolonging its life if it needs to. And it's served in a very, very short run draft system right in there. So the whole thing is just super tight, super controlled, kind of no expense spared in the ingredients, the process. And it's been yielding some very tasty stuff. So
totally. Can you tell me a little bit more about this experimentation you seem to do? Because your beers are always changing. How do you know what you want to try next? And then how do you actually go about making the recipe for something new?
Yeah, that's an extremely astute call out. So we're in our, let's say, 4.5 years. We're brewed over, I would say, 220 different beers. We may have done a couple other times, so probably like 400 or so actual brews on the system, but over 220 have been unique and different. That is challenging. It's hard and stressful sometimes because you're like, is this one going to be good? That one was perfect. In fact, it just won awards or people have loved it. And we'll never do it again. It's very counterintuitive, but I feel it's the right thing to keep pushing the envelope on what we can do, what our head brewer can do, what the system can do. And there's an educational component too for those that are coming through regularly. They're like, whoa, I'm seeing what you did there. I like that.
Oh, wow.
And so we will brew the hits. We have your light lagers. We have your hoppy IPAs. We have your ambers and darks, almost always on the menu. But then we'll also play. And that's where some of that experimentation will come in. We're not shy on playing with a lot of different styles of hops, from the bread and butters to some completely innovative ones. Some are not even named. There's some funky code. But we, got into the cool kids club at, let's say, one of the Yakima hop growers, and they said, okay, we trust you to use this correctly, but more importantly, give us really intelligent feedback on this hop. And sometimes they actually get names.
That's so fun.
And so it's we're just constantly pushing the envelope and having a ton of fun doing it. I think the guests like it as well because it's not always the same old thing. But for those that want that more predictable style, there's usually a couple other spots on the board. Like, I just wanted something light and easy. Boom, that's it. Or low ABV. Or I wanted something dark and rich. There it is. Perfect.
I was just going to ask you that. What's a fan favorite? Do you have like a flagship beer, or are there, in each style, is there one of your brews that stands out?
Yeah, so that's another interesting question. So lagers, light lagers in general, are the most consumed beer generally on the planet. Here, we're heavy on IPAs. If I were to add up all the IPAs that we sell, or regardless of the name or the style, that would be the one biggest one. That said, our system is a little bit more, let's say, dominant in making awesome lagers. We can do some really good stuff there. It's also a lot of things that brewers will often drink because it's hard to hide behind any kind of flaws. They're very light, crisp, and clear. So if you've done something wrong, there it is. Whereas on the IPA side, there's ways to mask. There's ways to add more hops. There's ways to take it in a different direction that you're not necessarily cheating, but you have invisible ink or a good eraser sometimes. Yeah. Whereas in lagers, you don't get a second chance often.
Well, when you say you're more set up for it, is that a technology? It's the way your system components are put together?
Correct. Okay. Yeah, without getting into technical details, but there's just more there in terms of the brew house and then the size of our cellar that allows really good lagering.
Thank goodness lager is my favorite.
Yes.
Lots and lots of choices. You talked a little bit about this, but unique ingredients or techniques that you've incorporated into your beers recently. What kind of ingredients would surprise people?
I think some of the far and away, we know Yakima is the dominant place. Washington State is the dominant place for hop production in the U.S. And certainly that's what we use by far the most. I think they'll be surprised how much of it we use by poundage. We really go heavy on it. And that's a kind of a religious discussion is like, there's a diminishing returns. You're just wasting money. No, there's actually are ways you can scientifically prove with certain oils and this and that they're there. So you want to be, heavy on that. Two, it's not just one hop. It's usually a very complicated recipe. Like you don't just salt your one dish. You add salt and pepper and rosemary and thyme. It's the same thing on the hops. You can really get creative and tease out some new flavors if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
There isn't a recipe book for that.
How do you know what one hop might bring to it versus another hop?
And part of it's just trial and error. And a lot of familiarity. Head brewer dragged me out to Yakima to basically select hops. And you're basically rubbing blinds, a double blind. So you have mosaic hop, for example, is a very common one. You'll have 3 piles in front of you. You're rubbing it, you're smelling it, you're trying to get as sensory about it as you can, as descriptive. Where again, for me, it's very hard work, but for those guys, you can see how good they are, and they're starting to get a sense for which one will yield and lend itself to a better outcome, and which ones are known to or could play nicely, and they usually start building from there.
Oh, that's
and I think the third thing is is where they're from. Some of these will experiment or just test or take tried and tested hops from New Zealand, from Australia. And there's a lot of people that have seen there's been some money in hops and they've tried to compete. Washington climate's unique in that sense that we're still strong. But yeah, the Australians and New Zealanders have put out some amazing hops, and just pretty penny to get them all the way over here.
That's interesting. I mean, that was one of the original crops in Issaquah was hops, which I think is hilarious.
Yes.
You have such a foothold in there. So this is the big question. This is what everybody wants to know. How do you name your beers?
Oh boy, that's
because that sounds like a really fun part of it.
that is again amazing questions, because you have no idea how interesting, and relevant they are. A lot of brewers or marketing teams are fatigued by him because they have so many names they've had to come up with that they're tired and they're out of writer's cramp, if you will. 2, with 9,000 breweries in the country, you can pretty much assure every common name is long taken. So to try to come up with something unique is really difficult. That said, it's been mostly head brewer and I, and inspiration comes from wacky places. It can be a weird phrase that someone overheard in the tap room. One was, he heard so many jokes, and okay.
That's a good name.
Out of whatever context, God knows what it was, we wrote it down. One of my secret places to find is around music videos on YouTube, but not music actual MTV, but ex-producers or vocal coaches that would do teardowns of various songs. Just the way they speak is foreign to me. And so you can hear these weird phrases in there. We had a hazy called Low End Bloom, and it has nothing to do with flowers. It had to do about low ends of tones and bass blooming or coming through the speakers. So you hear these weird phrases and you just have to go, what was that?
That sounds good.
Hold on. And so it creates, I like it. I'm not fatigued yet. I got, hope half a decade or more left in me before I'm done. No more beer naming. But you'll be in the most random places where that's a great beer name.
Yeah, I don't think I have a friend who hasn't come up with a beer name that they just didn't love. That does sound like the fun part of the job. I didn't think about fatigue, but I guess if you've been doing it for so long, maybe it's not as fun as it sounds, but you're still having fun.
Yeah, I love it. The hard part, I used to scroll through maps of Issaquah, looking at okay, this little knob of a hill has a name. This little side road, trying to find something. Gilman is too common, right? So I'm trying to find stuff, and it was exhausting. It was too hard.
You should just email the director of the History Museum and tell him to give you a whole bunch of local names, but don't tell him why. And see if something catches your eye, because there are these interesting corners around here. Very interesting.
It's just real fast, because you mentioned the History Museum. I'm on an email thread that I'm late to respond to, but I'm going to grab some of their stock photos, the historical photos. Of hops.
Yeah.
License them and frame them and just have them some places in the brewery. Just because I don't think people understand how cool the scene was here.
It's cool. And I know one of my friends had a staff person that worked in our parks department, the operations department. And he was always finding hops in our, they're randy little rascals. They end up in places you don't want them. Yes. But there are still hops in town. People know how to find them.
Yes.
Well, 2024 was a really exciting year for awards and recognition for Formula. And can you share a little bit more about the awards that you received? And what do they mean to your team?
Yeah, thanks for acknowledging that. We worked super hard for that. The team is vindicated, because they hear it from me and the head brewer. It's trust me, we're doing a lot of this is amazing stuff. You have to pour it correctly. You have to do this correctly. There's a lot of heart and soul in there, and the industry recognition is awesome. I'll say there's awards and there's awards.
Oh.
And it's easy to, get some, I'm making this up here now, but I got an award at the Puyallup Fair.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, what was that? Who was I competing against, right? I don't think they even have a competition. I just use it as a silly example. But when you start getting to some of these, like the Washington State Brewers Awards,
Yeah.
and you get to the Great American Beer Festival, which is the largest national competition, when you get to the World Beer Cup, and you're able to come home with some hardware, it's like,
Wow.
wow. For example, our Hellas Lager won gold in state, won silver nationally, and won silver internationally. And so that's 3 very big different bodies of judges all pointing to something on the table of dozens, sometimes hundreds of entries in each of those competitions. And they kept picking that one. So that's a really nice testament. That's where awards aren't awards when you get that that kind of a one. So that was really, really exciting. And again, vindicating.
Yeah.
Hopefully the people of Issaquah are like, hey, when we have family in town, we got a place that's truly
world
class.
Yeah, no, I think the fact that there are some international ones in it, that's just amazing. That is really, really cool.
Well, and so the World Beer Cup I mentioned, Hellas,
I love that. Sounds like a soccer match.
There were 2 that were super interesting because they were Munich style Hellas.
Ah.
I mean, it's named after the place way over there that created this and perfected this over hundreds of years.
Yeah.
And so, of course, the German breweries are going to dominate. And they won first and third. And then Issaquah slides in there for second.
That is so
and everyone's
fun.
like, it's a hoop.
Or they say
Formula
it wrong.
Yeah,
Issaquah I've had before, and Issaquah.
Yeah. So those were awesome for the team. Awesome for us. The head brewer was just blown away. Even he was. And he's got very good skills and he makes very good beer. But pulling out 4 medals at the World Beer Cup was unheard of.
Yeah, you did get press coverage all over, and as mayor, I keep track of those things. I'm promoting this city like crazy, and to have a brewery like yours here is just super rich for us. I was going to ask you about locating in an older city like Issaquah. I mean, Issaquah's been around for 130 plus years. It's a pretty tight knit community. How has it informed why you located here and how you shaped your business?
Yeah, community is everything. I can't think of a greater calling and purpose for the brewery than that. You can get beer anywhere. Maybe not award-winning great beer, but you can. You can get good pizza anywhere, and we've got good pizza. But there's something about a setting, a format where people are welcome. It's truly inclusive. If you're a small group, suddenly you turn into a big group, or you're a big group, and suddenly you turn into a small group, or single person, someone with a dog, family, kids. We got you. And it has to be, open and inviting. Hey, we went outside, but it's a little cold. We're going to come inside. Okay, we got you.
Yeah.
And so just being as welcoming first and earning that credibility there as an establishment is part one of the community. And the second is, how do we give back? How do we plug back in? How can we do more with the community? And that's another fun thing. For now, the biggest thing we want to do for the community is, look, if you have an event, we will not charge you anything.
Yeah, I know. I heard about that.
We will not make you spend a minimum amount. We will not assess a cancellation fee. Literally, if you 100% party, if you need to cancel the day of, got it. Stuff happens.
That is great.
We'll figure that out. We'll figure it out. I'm not going to take it on the staff either. We'll figure it out. So everyone is happy at the end of the day, and it's community. That's step one. But there's a lot of other stuff that we're going to be doing. A lot of breweries tell stories that are always positive about their landlord, and I go the opposite way with our landlord, who's generational, in the community, a big swath of land. So they care very much about curating that healthy, good community experience. And so from day one, they were like, hey, this is an interesting idea. Let's align. Yeah,
they've been very supportive. They send me lots of emails about how you're doing, which is just great.
Yeah, and there's tale after tale of just how they realized that this was a positive thing for the community. It's not just a rent check to them. They could have filled the space with someone else. It's just how does this give back, and how does this more, symbiotic or synergetic or whatever. And it pays off. And in the sense that they're a good megaphone for us. They're a good steward for connecting us with other people in the industry, in our local industry, and how do we collaborate. So there's not a lot of very positive landlord stories out
But
there.
you've got a good one.
But we've got a fantastic one.
Yeah, I've worked with that family for 3 decades, and as we watch all and welcome all those new folks that moved into those new developments, to have something pop up like you right near all that new housing on Newport Way, that is a gift to the community.
Yeah.
Right location. We have a council member who lives out your way, by the way, and can walk over to Formula Brewing, which he does. Sustainability is a really big topic in the brewing industry. So how is Formula Brewing contributing to, say, eco-friendly brewing practices?
Yeah, there's a couple of basics and maybe some stuff that we do uniquely. None of our grain, once it's used, called spent grains, gets dumped in the trash or even compost. It all goes to usually a farmer, but right now we're working with an organic farmer who takes it as includes it in his soil, right? And the farmers in general really, really like it. It goes to horses and chickens and goats and pigs. You can't eat it exclusively, but it is a nice way to supplement what their diet is and really subsidize some of the costs they have.
Oh, nice.
So being very consistent, making sure nothing is wasted there, and going to the ag community is a big thing. There's energy optimizations that you can do in there. So we have hot water, right? You're going to boil to get beer. Well, now you have all that energy. Then you got to lower the temperature. So there's ways to make sure that this water is recaptured.
Oh, that's awesome.
So there's heat transfer equipment there on site to help be as efficient as possible. And there's other little technical practices here and there. We worked day one with the water treatment, sewage stuff. You don't just dump whatever you want down there. There's pH guidelines and temperature guidelines.
Yes,
you want to be within ranges. We're so small that it's probably not going to matter. The people like Fremont and Elysian, they alter the downstream big time.
Yeah.
But it's similar concepts. Ultimately, they'll have more treatment, actual facilities and plants and stuff that'll do it. We just have to have discipline to do it ourselves.
Yeah.
So that's part of caring for the environment, if you will, local and great on a bigger scale is what we do.
Oh, I love that full circle type thinking, and also what you can do on your end that leaves the smallest footprint you could possibly leave. That is very, very commendable. Running a brewery involves balancing artistry and business, and so how do you find the right mix or the right balance for that?
Oh boy, yeah, the artistry is not my strength. I am very operationally inclined. There's a little bit of artistry scratch, I suppose, with the naming of the beers. We recently started connecting with the Issaquah art community and said, hey, you know what? Turns out it looked like a college bachelor decorated this place. If there's an artist that actually has something that they want to put up, by all means, they can put it up, sell it. Like, I don't want a penny of it. Just, go promote. And we can rotate. We can use our walls as a kind of makeshift gallery.
Yeah, you have a great space.
And so that's one thing that we're trying to bring in some of the artistry.
Oh, I love that.
And creativity. Because it can be the brewing process can be very scientific too, as well as creative elements. But what do the people see?
Yeah.
So that's been kind of step one.
That's good. That's great. I mean, that's another thing that this community gets really excited about is the arts, and how do we integrate it into everything we do and make these gathering spaces so enjoyable.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Very, very fun. I like that. So I have been to your tap room, but if you were describing it to somebody else, how would you describe it?
Yeah. Open, very casual. We also describe Formula as formal beer, casual atmosphere.
Yeah, I like that. That's good.
And so we've put a lot of time what's in the glass, and you guys kick back and enjoy yourself out of the glass. So you'll have more open table, picnic tables, kind of Bavarian beer hall setting.
Yeah.
You'll see a lot of TVs. So if they're into sports or something, pretty sure we've got it on or have got a subscription for it. So come on in, ask one of the beer tenders, hey, can you get the ... game on?
Oh, I've done that.
We'll figure it out. and have fun. It's be casual. Reach out to the neighbor that you're not in section 16.
No,
you can't talk to anyone else. No, please.
I like that too. I do
part
see
of the community.
Cross table talk is great.
Yeah, it warms my heart when I see people who didn't know they were going to be there and they're running and hugging and high fiving, and next thing they're a bigger group and like, bingo, I'm happy for the day.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love it that you can see your master brewer running around doing his work. Like it's right next to the dining area. And I think one of the funniest things is I love those big spools you have outside that you're using. Boy, that you are using as my husband and I are both engineers. So we're like, I know that's a spool for, some sort of cords or conduit or something, but it's a place to rest your beer. Yeah, I think that's hilarious.
When the pandemic started was when we were born, right? So we were born April 1st, 2020, a couple of weeks into it. Oh my gosh. And this back to the landlord, they were super cooperative. They're like, hey, you can start using that space, get out there, because that's the only hope you have right now is to get outside. So you've got our blessing. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, well, don't really have a big budget to go decorate a lot. And so I found some commercial electrical suppliers that had these spools, and they were trying to get rid of them because they're a menace to them after they've,
sure.
Like, where'd you go?
And they're huge.
I'll take them. Can I come back for more? They're like, yes, please. So I just dropped them out there as a makeshift table, and just to get started. I'm gonna, as part of my list.
Oh, is that on the to-do list?
Is to start. Well, they're getting a little weathered, and they've seen better days. So we're gonna start little by little making some solid improvements out there, but still want the concept of just a casual, just lean up, sit down a beer, and
that's what they bring.
The outside. Yeah.
A wonderful casualness to that area, like a hanger. I want to hang around here type feel. So what's next for Formula Brewing? Are there any upcoming beers, events, or expansions that you'd like to tell our audience about?
Yeah, sure. We've focused, I would say, a lot on operational discipline, trying to get more and more of the hiccups out of the system, just so you can come in and have a quick, clean experience. You're not waiting too long, even if it's crowded. Getting this event procedures and stuff dialed in. So we're kind of settling down on that. We're getting into more of a artistic mode that'll reflect in signage finally, and a merch. Not something
merch.
Simple like what I'm wearing, but like actually something more, and that stuff that ties in to Issaquah and what it is. So working on that. And then we're going to get into the events. We're going to look at redoing the beer garden. It's probably a year, 2 years away, but just making it a little bit more professional. Not necessarily fluid gravel under your feet, but pavers or artificial turf or something where, again, keeps the combination of I'm going to sit down, I'm going to relax, I'm covered from the elements, I have a place to play, I could have my kids, not necessarily super running around, but there's something distracting them. There's one of the throwing games, the cornhole or something like that. We're not going to do axes.
Oh, come on. I actually think I might like that.
So the more investment's going to go now towards the outside as
great.
The inside is kind of settled down. I've moved the tables around so many times in different configurations. Is this going to work? Is this going to work? I think things are settling now. So attention's going to the outside harder now.
That's great. I love the open air spaces. I think your space is really fun.
One of the other things that we've done a bit, some important ones, but we'll continue to do is collaborations with other breweries. Mm-hmm. As an ex-techie in a very competitive space, that was such a fresh change for the brewing industry. These guys are friends. We don't see each other like competitors. We get calls. David, the owner of Nobo, up in Snoqualmie. Hey, I got a bunch of extra stuff. You guys want to buy this? Or sometimes the other way. Hey, I'm short on something. You guys got it? No problem.
It's a partnership.
Right.
It's pretty cool.
You don't see Apple calling Microsoft, hey, I'm low on AI engineers this week.
Can I have a couple of
Can
yours?
you send a couple over?
No.
It's not going to happen.
That's nice. It'd be really fun, too, if there are local tasting events, if we can help you host one with, the brewers that are, not the biggies in Seattle, but the small ones. It would be so fun to get you guys all together and talk about it.
So keep it on 2024, because there were some good ones there, big names. But wait till 2025. I think there's going to be some really cool, fun names in there too. We've collaborated with.
I'm so excited. So what's your personal favorite style of beer and why?
Oh, it really depends. I am the most moody beer lover there is. And I used to be a light lager exclusive. Like that's all I could have. Again, the education is huge. I am all over the map right now. Maybe because I'm biased with the weather, I'm into our heavy, dark, like rich, boozy, chocolatey, roasty beers. We have a Baltic porter, which is not just a porter, but a porter on steroids, or almost like stout-like.
Wow.
Just big, rich, and fun. But best if you take it home. Because, they're stronger, so you want to be very, very mindful when you're out and about.
Taste it here. This is
Taste
great.
This is good. Have one, but go home and enjoy it there. So those are what I'm really enjoying right now.
Oh, that's fun. So talking about sort of that camaraderie that people have in the brewing industry, if you could work with any brewery or brewmaster in the world, who would it be?
Wow, that is a big one. If I had to pick a brewery, I think I would just go with Georgetown.
Really?
For now. Ask me again next year. But
interesting.
They have an awesome story of Manny and what he did.
Yeah, and is his partner Roger? Manny and Roger?
Yeah, so they're awesome.
Yeah. I met Roger years ago.
What they've done.
Before they started, and I couldn't believe what they did.
Yeah, and just they're the largest brewery in the state.
Unbelievable.
So that one just hits home. It's close, it's here on our soil. So I love that as a collab, as a big brand name collab. And then a name that no one will know, but Jeff Bagby.
Nope, I don't know him.
is a brewer where I grew up in Southern California.
Ah.
It was a pizza joint. We do pizza too. That eventually grew because it was so good into a chain of pizzas, and now it's known as Pizza Port. But few people that have been to San Diego will go, oh my God. Anyways, they made amazing beer. They are bigger than Fremont, not quite as big as Georgetown.
Wow.
But they are massive and they produce amazing quality stuff. They have that same, super anal dedication to quality. And the funnest people we've ever met. And he's the guy who kind of started that whole program, is Jeff Bagby. And anyways, my head brewer knows him. They're actually close buds.
Okay, so when I travel, I need to email you and tell you what city I'm going to, so you can tell me, here's the best place. I almost was in San Diego last month, but I was supposed to leave the day after the windstorm, so I didn't. But now I'm going to have to write that name down. That sounds really fun.
Head brewer just got back from San Diego 2 weeks ago and stayed at Jeff's house.
Oh, so fun.
I'm cheating a bit because
that's that industry.
That's that industry, right? So yeah, it's an amazing set of people. Like I've just found all across, from fellow fly fishermen, and we geek out. Of course, they're all beer geeks. Mountain climbers, hikers, bikers. We have a head brewer of Ravenna Brewing.
Oh yeah,
is a big mountain biker. So
you guys are finding fun in other places.
Yeah, well, she pops in after. It's like,
oh my gosh,
tell me about it. How was the ride? It's like,
that's so cool.
We see a lot of these people over and over, and it's like I said, it's a breath of fresh air.
Well, I'm wondering too if part of it doesn't have to do with, in the microbrewing industry, it's not like you all grew up in families that did this. A lot of you left careers to do this kind of passion project. So what advice would you give to somebody, you can't tell them that they're crazy, if they came up to you and said, what do I need to do to start up my own brewery? And do you think it's a good idea? Oh,
yes. The classic one-liner is, if you want to make $1 million in microbrewing, start with 2. It's really capitally intensive out of the gates, and it's really a gut shot for a long time that can get through this, all that. Start small, tell a fantastic story, and build from there. Don't try to take over the world with beer, because there's 9,000 other breweries that have the same potential, seed in the back of your head that they're going to be the next biggest. So work with your town, foster a fantastic community. Do not skimp on product. They'll figure it out.
They'll figure it out.
and just build from there and be as organic and genuine as possible.
Oh, that's great. I've learned so much. Is there anything else that you would like to share with our audience, that maybe something I didn't ask you about that you're excited about with your business?
Look for menu changes almost every other week, maybe for sure every month. And so, I've been to format. I remember. No, it's probably gone. We're on to something else. And then look for a different kind of collabs. I'm looking at let's say with a restaurateur or two,
Mm.
where we can do a concept like some seafood pizza. We come up with something interesting
I
there.
love that.
But we bring two different walks of life in
Yeah.
the food and beverage or hospitality industry and doing collabs. So that's other stuff that's looking at 2025.
Yeah, the collaboration piece is just huge. It runs through almost every answer that you've given me today.
Yeah, well, that's the community part, right? Not only you get to meet other business owners, other creators,
Yeah.
chefs, bartenders, etc., but then you get to cross promote that
Yep.
people necessarily in a fine dining place aren't going to go to the super casual place where they sit on a wooden bench and vice versa.
Yeah.
But when they see that, the name's like, oh, maybe it does inspire them.
Oh, that's fantastic. Danny, I just want to thank you for coming in and talking with me and the community today about the amazing Formula Brewing. And thank you for bringing it to Issaquah. It's been a big ad. I just love it. And encourage everyone to, if you haven't tried it out, like Danny said, it changes all the time. So get in there and try some good food, some good beer. Thanks, Danny.
Thank you.